Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be a part of this. Thank you, Ron, Sarah, and of course, great to see you again, Amanda. I think the conversation that we're going to have today is so important. And in fact, for today's conversation on personal branding, I want you all to know that I'm drinking out of my RBG. Don't mind the lipstick here. I'm drinking out of my RBG mug, regardless, I think, of where you stand on the political spectrum. I think RBG is someone, we can all look to. She certainly has a brand. You think about someone who sat on the Supreme Court and now we're all drinking out of coffee mugs with her queen tiara on it or her queen crown on it. So regardless of where you stand, I think you have to say RBG really did a great job creating her own personal brand. So I thought she would inspire me for today's conversation. So my name is Meg Hare. I am with Accenture's Texas Public Sector Practice. I'm based here in Austin. I am the sales director for the work that we do supporting our state of Texas clients. And I'm deeply passionate about the work we do. I care and I find deep meaning in my work, and helping our state of Texas clients achieve their business outcomes is one of my greatest accomplishments and one of my greatest honors. So really happy to be a part of this conversation. I love working with Dress for Success. I think this is a great organization. Amanda and the team over there really are doing fantastic things for the women in our community. And I strongly believe in diversity and equity and inclusion, and making sure that all voices are heard and all voices are at the table. So thanks for having me on. And with that, I'll hand it over to Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rua and Meg. I am super, super excited to be here. So my name is Sarah Brummel, and I am the North America Inclusion and Diversity Learning Lead for Accenture. And it's just a really super long title that just indicates that I have the coolest job in the entire company, because I have the great opportunity to lead our learning initiatives really on two kind of streams or buckets of focus. So first and foremost, I lead the learning opportunities that we deliver for our diverse talent. And then my second area of focus are the diversity-centric learning opportunities that our broader organization can gain from. So I am a true believer in having a true inclusion and belonging journey within every organization. And I'm really excited about this opportunity to connect with the Dress for Success participants. And this is actually my second time doing a presentation with Dress for Success, but it was about 3 or 4 years ago. So was just thrilled and honored to be invited to be a part of this session today. So thank you for having us. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I really do want to highlight that today will be just that. We want it to be a conversation, not a presentation. So I do encourage you to put yourself on video, stay engaged, take yourself off mute, raise your hand if you have questions, and please feel free to contribute in any way, shape, or form that you are comfortable doing so. This is a safe space. So things that we say here can stay here, will stay here, but what we learn has to leave. So I'm excited to be with you today. So with that, we can jump right in. Ru, if you want to jump a couple slides forward, I want to ask the group, what are the brands that you love? So take yourself off mute and share with me, what are some brands that jump out at you that you love, and why do you love those brands? Anyone want to go first? Meg, what are some brands that come to mind for you, Meg, that are really important for you, and why do you love those brands?
I loved this question. So I was thinking about that this morning, about brands that really resonated with me. And there is a brand in the female running community. So I'm a runner, and that's a big part of who I am and a lot of how I identify myself. And there's a brand called Oiselle, Oiselle. And it's a brand created by and for women, specifically women runners. And they have a message around inclusion. Everybody can be a runner, regardless of what your body looks like, big, small, whatever size and shape you are, everyone can be a runner. And they have built their brand around that message. They have, like, if you go to their website, if you go to buy their products, they have real women,
right,
models.
Right.
They're not models. And so I love the message that it's an inclusive community. They've built a strong community around the brand, and it's all around bringing people into running. People who may think, oh, I'm not a runner, that's not for me. Yes, you are, and the brand really does a great job with that. So I think it's what they stand for. And I know it's not really well known, but it really resonates with me. I'll pop it into the window, Sharon. It's based out of Seattle, and it's called Oiselle.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Sharon, I thought I saw your hand pop up. Did you have a question, or you want to share what brands that you love and why you love them?
Yes, it is actually Sharon, but if you say
Sharon, thank you for the
no,
correction.
that's fine. I'm going to answer. If you go anything, I'm like, oh, they're referring to me. Now, one brand that I love that I can't necessarily afford, and I'm definitely not trying to sound snobby, is Gucci. I bought a pair of Gucci flip-flops for $19. Those things, besides matching everything, they were so sturdy. I could just walk all over the place. It gave me ankle support. So I guess that kind of taught me that, quality, sometimes you kind of pay for quality and it's worth it. But yeah, I love Gucci. That's the only Gucci thing I've ever owned. And yeah, just great quality.
I love it. I love it. So dependable, supportive, good quality. Those are the kind of the characteristics of that brand that really hit home for you. Anyone else want to share what brands come to mind?
I'll share.
Great.
I would use you. I love Louis Vuitton, and I
need to go shopping with all of you. Is what I have to say.
So actually, I got mine really, really, really reasonable also, and it held up. It was like a duffel bag, and I had the thing for years. So the durability, along with the design, that's why I love them. The durability is the main thing.
Right. Right. Okay, perfect. We're going to take two more. I've got two Katies with their hands up. Let's go with the Katie with the Y first.
I was going to say Google. I like Google just because it tells you anything you want. I mean, hey Google, or you can be on the internet or your laptop, whatever. So I don't know. I like Google. I think it's good for everything, directions, anything.
Yes, absolutely. Anymore, it's so funny. I remember when, I'm aging myself, but I remember when MapQuest first came out, and you'd print off, you look it up and you'd print it off and it would give you directions from your driveway out of your neighborhood. And you're thinking, I think I got that part covered. And you'd print it out, and I thought I was so cool. I was like, how does it know where I am? And I thought that was so interesting. And now I literally use Waze to get out of my driveway. Like it's bad. It's bad. So good. How about you, Katie Gill?
Well, this one may not be very popular, but I love Amazon. I love the convenience of it, and they've always been, real responsive to me. I haven't had bad customer experience with them yet. When I report price gouging, that ad is taken down amazingly fast. Things like that. And then the other one, I'll give another one, is called CMX, and that's a community for online community managers. And I have learned so much from them, and the community is so welcoming and kind and supportive, and it's just an amazing thing if you're in that space.
I love it. I love it. And Katie, I haven't heard of that, so I appreciate you sharing that. I will have to check out CMX. And Jules, what brand is jumping out at you that you enjoy or that you love?
Well, since we are, most of us, I think, live in Austin, Kendra Scott.
Yes.
Because she has, not only does she have beautiful pieces, but also, just the community support that she, displays. I love it, Meg. Thanks for sharing. But yes, so Kendra Scott, I think every woman wants to make an impact in the world and in the community. And I love that about her because she's so encouraging. She's very influential. And when you just see her, it just makes you want to do things, right? And not just sit on your butts and do nothing. But yeah,
exactly. I love it. These are actually Kendra Scott.
Nice.
So I'm right there with you. Well, this is amazing. So what I love about everyone's comments is really there's kind of this emotional and psychological element to a brand, and there's a stickiness to it. And I want to marinate in that for a minute, or we're going to come back to that, because when we're thinking about these big, huge brands that are out there, all of those things also translate to our own personal brand. Is how do we and our personal brand make others feel? What is sticky about our personal brand, and what's going to bring people back to us and create kind of loyal customers because of the personal brand that we craft, we evolve, we communicate, and we live. So let's jump right in and let's talk about, what exactly is personal brand? What does it mean? And most importantly, why does it matter? So we look at the next slide, we look at, I love this quote, I'm talking about Amazon, this quote from Jeff Bezos, that personal brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. And have you ever thought about that? Like what people are saying when you're not in the room? And this kind of all started back in 1997. There was Tom Peters wrote an article in a magazine called Fast Company, and it was titled "A Brand Called You." And what Tom Peters said was that really, regardless of your age, regardless of your position, regardless of the business that you happen to be in, we are all CEOs of our own companies called me. And what is our brand called you or called me? And that we need to recognize that we are the CEOs, we are the VPs of marketing for this brand called me. And so it's super important that we think about how we go about developing and crafting not only our brand, but our brand statement. And then most importantly, making it stick. So people are going to come back to us. And when they're having conversations about their needs, their wants, or whatever it might be, that they come back to us as the ones that are going to provide value and to be able to fulfill those needs, whether it's within a company, a specific team, a particular product, whatever it might be. So, we've talked a little bit about brands, but when you think about like the stickiness of a brand or your own personal brand, you think about these taglines like share a Coke and a smile, or no pain, no gain, or nationwide is on your side. Now I'm gonna have that song stuck in my head all day because it's sticky, right? Or M&Ms melt in your mouth, not your hands, which I've decided is only because I eat them so fast, I don't give them time to melt in my hands. Or you're in good hands with Allstate. But all of these things, these are all the things that we've heard of. These are all things that have stuck in our minds because they have captured their brand in such a way that there's a stickiness to it. So recognizable brands, they use storytelling to capture our attention and to stick in our minds. So when you think about brand marketing, it's a tagline. It's kind of this big idea, or it's the commercial, kind of this 30 to 60-second story that is illustrating that big idea. Well, when we think about personal branding, we are the big idea. So what is our tagline? What is our commercial? What is that 30 to 60-second story that is demonstrating the value that we have to offer for an organization, for a team, for a leader? And so when we think about this commercial, that is our personal brand statement. And what it is, it's really a compelling introduction to who we are, what we do, who we do it for, and why. And it leaves people wanting to know more. Like, okay, Sarah's told me just a little nugget of information about her. I'm super interested in finding out more. So, and the brand that we communicate really kind of marks our career reputation. And it's in some respects, it's the promise. It's the promise to a future employer, or it's a promise to a future team lead of the value and the contributions that we are going to make on that team and that we are going to deliver for that organization. Well, one thing I want to keep in mind, I want all of us to keep in mind as we look to kind of define our own personal brand, keep in mind that this is not showing up and kind of reciting our resume. It's really bringing home who we are, why we do what we do, what it is that we do, and how we do it in a unique way. So if we look at this, your personal brand, again, we've talked about that it represents the value that we are able to consistently deliver. And it's a natural and instinctual part of who we are. It's kind of woven into the fabric of our being, because it's anchored in our why. And we're going to get to that in just a little bit. And it should be viewed, it's almost like your registered trademark. It's your stamp. But it's something that we are constantly evolving. So it's not something where you develop your tagline or your 30 to 60 second kind of commercial or introduction, and then you're stuck with that, because it's going to evolve as you grow and as you evolve. So it's really up to you to also grow and evolve your personal brand as you're growing in your career. And again, just like what Tom Peters was saying, that's regardless of what your career is, what level you're currently sitting at, or what industry you're in. Meg, I'd love to ask you to kind of pull you back into the conversation and ask you, kind of the evolution of your personal brand, and maybe if you could share kind of a story about how it's like a natural part of who you are. And I know you touched on it a little bit with, why you're here today, but we'd love to hear just any side of insight that you have about the evolution of your personal brand, maybe throughout your career at Accenture.
Yeah, I love that question, Sarah. Oh, and I'm sorry, is that feedback on my side? Are you guys getting
go on mute just in case?
Hopefully that wasn't me. Well, first of all, I do want to say, talking about those brands earlier, the Coca-Cola and the Nationwide, one brand that really resonated with me from the 90s, I think maybe you and I are about this. So one brand that really resonated with me in the 90s was, if you guys remember Calgon, Take Me Away. So I love that story, right? Because Calgon created this whole, just with their commercials, with their marketing, I still remember this, from the 90s. And they created this whole sense of like the working woman, right? Because the working woman was kind of a thing in the 90s, right? You think back to Dolly Parton in 9 to 5 and like, you get off a hard day and you've been working, and now you're going to take your luxurious, relaxing bath in Calgon. And it was Calgon that represented that, at the end of the day, I put in a long, hard day and now I'm going to take a bath. So anyway, I was thinking about that this morning, and I was really glad that you had showed some examples, because it just reminded me of Calgon, Take Me Away. So anyway, back to my own personal brand. So I introduced myself both to external teams and then to internal teams as well at Accenture as being the voice of the customer. And that is my very short, very direct, again, it's not a, representation of my resume. I'm not telling them who I am, what I've done. I am the voice of the customer. So what that looks like when I'm talking to client teams, I say, it is my job to be the voice of the customer, representing what you are looking to accomplish, representing internally to Accenture what your goals are. It is my job to translate what you need internally to what Accenture can provide. I am your voice. And I tell that likewise to internal Accenture teams. When I'm working on teams internally, I say, it is my job to be the voice of the customer. It is my job to bring forward, we may get working internally and doing our internal gyrations, and it's my job to remind everyone, here's what the customer needs. Here's what the customer wants. Here's what the customer is saying. So I like that, because it encapsulates, how I have defined my brand, my role, and it's something I care deeply about. It's something that I'm truly connected to passionately, like internally. I internalize that. And so for me, being the voice of the customer is a way that I can really represent both internally and externally who I am, what I do, and what I care about, what I'm passionate about. As far as my journey and like where that has been with Accenture, I am in a sales role. That is my job on paper. And I think sometimes that can be interpreted like, I'm just out to sell. I'm just out to, get that next contract signed. I'm just out there hustling. And that certainly is part of what I do. But I'm all about delivering value, and I'm all about really making a difference to our customers. So it has been that journey, kind of taking that, what can be sometimes a negative connotation of sales. Everybody's like, oh, sales, yeah. Taking that and really turning it into, we are delivering real value for our customers, and not to in any way turn this into an Accenture sales pitch, but we really are, and I believe in that. So that's been a little bit of my journey. Hopefully that answered your question.
No, Meg, and I love every word of that, because I'm sitting there thinking, when you say, I am the voice of the customer, and I hope this resonates with the rest of the participants as it did with me, that, in 7 words, it evoked so many different emotions that for me, that I could see from both sides, from the customer's perspective as well as Accenture's perspective, that I know as a customer in those 7 words that Meg is my go-to gal, that she has my back, she's representing me in this machine that is Accenture, that she's not out just to get, you know, to make the next sale, to get the next contract. Yeah, that's part of it, but that's almost like by default of just being an advocate for the client. And then from the Accenture's perspective, Meg is also my go-to gal to figure out what it is that our clients need and what they want, so we can in turn serve those needs and those wants, and in turn get that contract signed. So I think that, you know, in 7 little words, you evoked this level of confidence and trust and understanding that, okay, I know what you do. Like, I know what I would need to contact you for. So, and that's what's so critical about that. It is this very brief, you know, when we're thinking about our personal brand and our personal brand statement, that it does not need to be some paragraph or some big long story, that it just needs to be punchy and sticky and get your point across. So I think that that's great. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So if we jump, you know, when we're thinking about, so we've talked about, you know, what your personal brand is. We talked about the personal brand statement, but you know what, most importantly, why does it matter? Who cares? Like, what difference is this making? So when we think about the importance of personal brand, you know, I think back, and I'm going to be very authentic and very personal for just 1 second. And again, emphasizing that this is a safe space. So I welcome you to do the same. But I remember I was let go from a company. This is a long, long time ago. I was let go from a company, as were several of my colleagues, as we had lost our largest account. And at the time, I was in accounting and finance executive recruiting, and I was going through a very, very horrible divorce. And so I was unemployed. I was single. My ex-husband, or in the process of being ex-husband, had also lost his job. And I had to borrow $16 from my son's savings account so I could buy bread and bologna so we would have dinner for the week. And I'll never forget, he was 4 at the time. And he was going to his dad crying. He was like, "Mommy took all my money. Mommy took all my money." And I remember buying gas with a roll of quarters. And that was it. That's all I had to get home. That's all I had to get home. It was about 30 miles away. And so I was kind of in the worst place in my life in that moment. And it was my brand that pulled me out of that well, because I got a phone call very shortly, kind of in the midst of all of this going on, from a manager who I'd worked with years before this, who his company was kind of in a pickle. They needed to hire someone on board in a consulting capacity to come in and kind of re-engineer how their recruiters were functioning and working with their clients, et cetera. And he knew that I was a go-getter. He knew that I was the one to go to if he wanted to get something done. He knew that I had great client relationships, and he knew that he was going to be able to achieve their organizational goals if he brought me on board in a consulting capacity, because that was my brand, is that I was going to go in, I was going to get it done, I was going to deliver results, and I was going to do that through positive client relationship development, maintenance, and evolution. And so it was my brand that gave me this incredible consulting opportunity that ended up rolling into a full-time opportunity that actually ended up rolling into an introduction. I was running my own consulting practice, which led to an introduction that I was working on the same client that Accenture was working with. Accenture got a hold of me, and now I've been with Accenture for 11 years. But it was my brand that was my bridge that got me out of that hole. And I'm sitting here today because of it. So I'm just sharing with you that it's very personal, but it's very, very important. So you want to be thinking about, what is my brand? How am I communicating it? How am I evolving it? And how can I leverage it to get me to where I want to go? Because it absolutely will. One of the things that I have highlighted here on this slide too is that one of the things that's super important to keep in mind as well is that if you don't create your brand, I promise you, someone else will do it for you. So you want to make sure that you are anchoring into your why, your what, and your how, and that you're evolving that you're communicating it effectively, and you're getting ambassadors. Kind of, you've got your own board of directors, you've got ambassadors, people who are in your corner, who are helping to share your story and to share your brand. I'll never forget, at one point in my career, I was, I think of myself as very strategically minded. I'm very big picture. I love to think about where we're going from a strategic perspective, but I also get kind of revel in getting into the minutia or the details and taking care of like the little nitpicky things. And I had positioned myself professionally in such a way that I got far too caught up in the nitpicky things. And I was in a review, and here I am thinking of myself as this strategic business advisor. And the lead I was working for at the time, she said, Sarah, you're a great project manager and you're really good with the details. And what she was praising me for was the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. And it was the exact opposite of what I wanted my brand to be. But I had been living a brand that wasn't the one that I was looking to create. Like, I was living a brand of a person who was a good project manager, not a strategic advisor. So it really gave me, her candor gave me an opportunity to pause and reassess, the brand that I was communicating just in my behaviors and my actions, that maybe I don't want to be engaging in those behaviors or actions, because that may not be taking me down the career path that I really want to go down. So it's super important that you are defining who you are and who you want to be, and the value and the contributions that you are capable of making, and that others are helping share that same story. Because if you, like I said, if you don't tell the story, someone else is going to create the story for you.
Well, Sarah, if you don't mind me interjecting there, first of all, I just want to say your candor and the bravery in telling that story, I think, should be applauded, right? You're setting an example for how we can be honest and transparent.
Absolutely.
And so I think that should be applauded. Your story makes an impact. Your story makes a difference. What I wanted to point out about that, which I thought was really interesting, your actions and behaviors and how you're showing up is creating that brand, right? You told the story first around how you were known as like showing up and getting the work done. You were known as being a hard worker, and that gave you career opportunities, landed you this position at Accenture. But by the same token, so that's a really good positive thing. By the same token, that probably what was that same characteristic, your hard work, your ethics, right? Like showing up every day and getting the work done, also created to a brand of, well, maybe, Sarah's really good at managing the details. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not what you wanted. So I thought that story was really interesting because it did kind of show almost two sides of the same coin, right? Your greatest strengths can sometimes be weaknesses as well, but you had the visibility to it. Someone, you had a champion who kind of helped you piece those pieces together, and you thought, well, I am really good at managing the details, but this is what I want to be known for. But I think at the end of the day, the way you showed up every day was creating that brand, and that's to be applauded. That's great.
Well, thank you, Meg. Thank you. Good. So I want to open it up to the group. With Pierre Nanterine was actually our former global CEO for Accenture, and just this wonderful man. And just in this very short statement has made an impact on me. I know that, be famous for something. And when I say famous, that could be just within your family, within your network. It could be within your group of 10 people, but be famous for something. So I want to open it up to the group. What is it that you're famous for today? So if you think about what you're famous for, I'd love for you to share out loud if you're comfortable doing so. But if you think about, what is your superpower? What is it that you may do better than others? And I think about, again, going back to Tom Peters' quote, that regardless of age, regardless of level, regardless of the business that you're in, we all have a superpower. There's something that you do better than others do. Like, I'll never forget, I went to the same grocery store before I moved for 10 years, every single week. And I only went on the day that I knew Carl was going to be there to bag my groceries, because Carl did it better than anyone else ever did. He organized everything. So all the refrigerator items were together, all the dairy items were together. So when I was unpacking, it was done. Grocery organization was Carl's superpower. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's what he was famous for. And his company, Kroger, got more business from me on a weekly basis because Carl had a superpower in how he bagged his groceries. So I'd love to hear from you. What is it that you're known for? What is your superpower? What is it that you do better than others? Or what is it that people come to you for, whether either to do or advice on? What is it that you're famous for? I'd love to hear from the participants. Deborah?
Oh, go ahead, Deborah.
I'm known for being a great listener and of a service to people. I actually listen, ask questions, and then I help them find whatever they're looking for. I was a great salesperson on my job before the pandemic hit, and I love helping people. That's been me all my life, and I'm very patient, and I'm a good listener.
And those are the rarest qualities. So what is the saying that our grandmothers used to say? You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Like, that's how you should be doing it. You should double the time that you're listening. And most people don't do that. So that is truly a superpower.
Yeah.
Katie, do you have something that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I hope this doesn't sound egotistic, but
Nope.
I think that I'm really good at empathy and practicing offering support with compassion. I'm also known for being a little goofy.
That's my favorite. I love it. The goofier, the better. I love it. That's fantastic. And Katie, I love that you said, I love what you said, that you kind of opened up that you hope that this doesn't sound egotistical, because I think that's one of the things that people struggle with when they're thinking about crafting their personal brand, and then even more so when they're thinking about communicating their personal brand, because it feels, and I will say that this is also a huge struggle, more so for women than it is for men, that women have a difficult time with self-promotion and self-advocacy, because we don't want to toot our own horn, we're kind of systematically programmed to be more meek, or to be more modest, or to be more reserved, while men are kind of touting their accomplishments. But personal branding, it is not a promotional opportunity. It's absolutely critical for your career advancement. And it's not egotistical if it's true. If you are really good at something, you are really good at something, and people need to know, because they're going to gain value from what you're really good at. And that's what it's all about. So it's not egotistical. It is not self-promotion. It's just good personal branding. So never be fearful that you're going to come across as, arrogant or egotistical, because, the goods are in your behaviors, the goods in what you can contribute. If you do have these superpowers and you're really good at something, then it's true. So shout it from the rooftops.
Glad you mentioned that.
Oh, sorry, Meg, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I'm glad you mentioned that. I do think women, sometimes we fall victim to doing that. We want to almost excuse, or pardon me, but, we do hesitate sometimes to champion ourselves and to champion our own superpowers, because we might feel that it does, make us feel, or make us appear to be egotistical and self-centered and not supporting the team. So I'm glad that you addressed that. I think that is important. My challenge to every woman today is to remove that vocabulary, or to remove that vernacular from your vocabulary. So just, stop saying it. Challenge yourself to stop. Pardon me, but I hope this doesn't sound like, let's just stop saying it today, because I think in a lot of ways, stop apologizing.
Mm-hmm.
I do it the same. Mea culpa. I do it the same too. So I have had to challenge myself to stop behaving like that, because it doesn't serve us well, and it doesn't serve the people around us well either. So I'm glad you pointed that out. That's
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you, Meg. And Shanae, I see your hand up. And am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Hi, it's Shania.
Shania, thank you.
So I haven't really thought too much about this, which is really interesting until now. And I still haven't thought a ton about it, but I'm just like, wow, this is I really need to sit down and think about this. But one thing that I know I'm really good at is getting into college and helping and navigating college, from the teachers to the homework assignments to the politics, just everything on how to navigate college at different levels, how to get through college. And then, so that's one thing. And then the second thing is just knowing how to build things, whether it's programs, events, just things of that nature, just knowing how to build things and maintain things. And then anything around just designing things in general, whether it's flyers or Again, like program stuff like that, just anything that is creative, anything that calls on a creative nature, brainstorming, things of that nature. So I'm good at like those 3 areas.
I love it. I love it. So Shania, now that you are thinking about it, be thinking about how you can, effectively communicate that and your target audience to communicate that. Like who can benefit from these contributions and from these superpowers and these things that you're really good at. And that's going to be kind of your niche market and the people who are going to rally around you and help you kind of move through your career is once you identify what value it is that you have to offer, for whom that value or those contributions are going to benefit, and get the word out there and get your ambassadors in place to help you get that word out as well. So thank you for sharing that. And is it Moto? I just see a hand raised for Moto G Power. It sounds like a superhero. Or Beatrice, do you want to go? I see your hand up as well.
One thing I'll say I'm good at is that whenever I show up at my workplace, I show up smiling with this positive attitude. And also I'm good at following up my team members, especially when it comes to turning up our monthlies. I make sure I follow them up, and they in turn tell me, oh, Beatrice, you are good at following us up, and that makes up to really sit up. So our unit don't come off like those units that will be behind in turning their stuff in. So I want to say I'm also assertive in presenting whatever I want and saying it calmly, respectfully. I think that's some of my values that I know I have.
I love it. I love it. So good. This is kind of a good primer to be thinking about, get in that headspace of, these are the things that I'm really good at and the things that I really enjoy doing. And then, and as you're going up through your day to day, thinking about, well, who else needs to know these things that I'm good at? Who else can benefit from these things that I'm good at? And then getting the word out there. So that's great. Well, perfect. I want to jump into kind of the next piece of the pie, which is our building, our brand building blocks. And so it is, as we're thinking about how we go about building or crafting our brand, we can think about it kind of in this pyramid framework. And so if we think about the foundation of our brand, so this is the baseline, is what we call our VPs. So these are our vision, our purpose, our values, and passion. So if you think about, your vision, it's your image of what you see possible for the world. This is your desired future. So, and your purpose is your role in turning your vision into reality. And then, so these are kind of your vision and your purpose are also part of your why. And if you think about your values, these are the ideals or principles that determine how you conduct your day-to-day activities. So your values are really true to who you are. These are your non-negotiables. You are not going to compromise your values. And they are super important in pouring the foundation of your brand, because they're going to determine kind of who you are and how you go about your day-to-day. And then your passions, and this is huge. This is what motivates you, what energizes you, what gets you out of bed in the morning and keeps you up at night. Because as a leader, and again, you can be a leader regardless of where you are in your career, what level of position that you sit in, you are a leader in your own company of the brand called you. And so, and as a leader, you are constantly striving to always be pushing your passions forward. So really focus on that. And then kind of the next level is your soft skills. And we talked a lot about this just now when we're thinking about what our superpowers are. Many of you mentioned some soft skills that are your area of expertise, because these are things that oftentimes can't necessarily be proven or measured. So it's difficult to quantify. So it's difficult to quantify that, okay, I'm a great listener, although this is super, super valuable and a rare characteristic or trait. So it can't be quantified, but it is still a critical building block for your brand. So some of these soft skills may be strong communication skills, effective leadership, teamwork, a strong work ethic, problem-solving skills, etc. And then if you think about differentiated advisory skills, so what sets you apart as an authority in a specialized field? Or, think about the topics or the industries or the content that you excel, that you might be considered a subject matter expert. So, is it helping people get through college, navigating the coursework, navigating your hours? And I need your help for my son. Someone's got to get him out of college before he's 30, please. But when you think about, what thought leadership are you providing? And maybe you're doing this without even recognizing it. And then kind of the next step is, what are your technical skills? And this could be anything. It could be Microsoft Word, it could be Excel, it could be SAP, it could be security, it could be data, it could be cloud, it could be PowerPoint, whatever it is, or it could be knowing how to run a system, at a particular convenience store, whatever it is. What are your technical skills and areas of expertise within that space that you bring to the table? And then we look at kind of the cap, the pinnacle of this pyramid is our behaviors. It is absolutely critical that we understand that our brand, it is what we do, not what we say. And I know many of us have known leaders within our organizations or colleagues or big people at school or within our friend circle who, they may talk a lot of smack or they talk a big game, but what they do is what we're really listening to. So just be thinking, are my behaviors demonstrating the brand that I am trying to convey? Okay, so let's look at, we have to know ourselves to grow ourselves. And so part of that is understanding how others see us. And, is there a gap between how we see ourselves and how those around us see us? So the first step to growing ourselves, it involves both internal reflection as well as gathering external feedback. So it's critical that we invest the time to gather information from those around us, whether it's in a school setting, a work setting, a friend setting, a family setting, whatever it is. But how do others see our attributes, our characteristics, skills, competencies, and strengths? And is there a disconnect? Are they seeing us in a different way than how we want them to see us? Or are they seeing us in a way that isn't necessarily aligned to the brand that we are trying to convey? So we have to know ourselves. We have to take that time for self-reflection. And then once we've done that, then we can dig into, and I've mentioned this before, what is our why? What are our values, our passions, our purpose, our vision? Why is it that we're doing what we're doing? Is it our kids? Is it our family? Is it for our own self-development? What is it exactly that we do? And how do we do it in a way that is unique to ourselves, that adds value to an organization or to a team? So the next couple of things that we're going to talk about now with defining your brand, the golden circles of your why, your what, your how, these are going to be great things to leverage with your one-on-one sessions with the volunteers. So I definitely do encourage you to sign up to meet with our one-on-one volunteers this week. So you can kind of walk through and, create some space for you to walk through what is your why, what is your what, as well as what is your how. And also a great conversation is going to be jumping in to how you tell your story by defining your shape. And so if we look at, what exactly is our shape? So our shape is our strengths, our history, our aspirations, our passion, and our expertise. And you can see there's kind of bullets under each one of those different categories, but it is our shape that helps us define our brand. So take some time on your own to write down, grab some paper, write down, okay, what are my top 3 to 5 attributes or, value contributions? What is my history? Who are the people, the experiences that have helped shape who I am today? And who are the people and the experiences that I need to have moving forward to shape who I want to become? What are my aspirations? What are my passions? What are my expertise? Because these are all things that are going to help fuel our personal brand and our personal brand statement. So I'm going to leave those there, and you'll have the opportunity to have those one-on-one conversations this week with our Accenture volunteers. But those will be great catalysts for that conversation and to give you something, tangible that you can anchor to build your personal brand statement. Okay. So let's look at, when we look at, creating your brand statement, what is it that you want to be known for? So really having an answer to this question defines what your target audience can expect from your leadership. So remember, this is not your title. It is also not your personal mission or life purpose. So it's truly identifying your brand statement. You want to live it and breathe it every day. So make sure that you take the time to make sure that it represents who you are and what you can do. So to get started on that, this gives you some bullet points. Here are the steps to crafting your brand. So you want to refer back to your shape, get grounded in your golden circles, and start with listing kind of, what are your key career or business attributes? Get all this down on paper. I love to do like a sticky note wall where you can kind of, okay, here are my attributes, here are my strengths, here's my history. Leave that up on your wall. Have something visual that you can wake up in the morning and look at that to be inspired by and to give you something to work toward. So you want to look at, what are your unique selling points? Because if we think about our personal brand, it is the great differentiator. It is what makes us stand out. It is what made my previous lead call me and hire me when I needed a job the most. It was my unique selling points that got me out of that hole and really created my brand. So I would encourage you to do a sticky note wall, an accomplishment tree with sticky notes, whatever it is, write it down on paper, share it with your family, share it with your friends, but definitely your shape exercise as well as the golden circles is going to help you get started. And here's some steps to crafting that brand. And so what we want to be thinking about, we've talked about what are you famous for today, but what is it that you want to be famous for tomorrow? So your personal brand statement, it is a memorable 1 to 2 sentence statement that is solutions oriented. So let's think about Meg's kind of brand statement. I am the voice of the client or the customer. 7 words. And in those 7 words, you get it and you understand what Meg is famous for. So it's really kind of answering what you are the best at. So what is the value? Who is the audience that you serve and how do you do it uniquely? So it really kind of sums up your promise of value to your team, your lead, your organization, your company, or potentially your circle of influence. So it's kind of this distinctive to you and you alone. So this will kind of give you a framework for what, building out your brand statement. So I want to be known for being what, so that I can deliver what to whom. So think about, I want to be known for this so that I can deliver or do that for the benefit of whom. And do you mind to make it just a 1 to 2 sentence solutions oriented statement? So I want to jump because I know we're getting close on time. So I want to jump to the 3 C's of branding: clarity, consistency, and constancy. So now that you know what you want to be known for and you have a communication plan in place, you remember you always want to follow the 3 C's. So you always want to be, think about clarity. You always want to be clear about who you are as well as who you are not. So by knowing your unique promise of value, you are identifying what sets you apart from others. This is what differentiates you and allows you to attract brand loyalty. So we talked about all these brands that we loved at the onset of this conversation because we're loyal to those brands. So we want our target audience to be loyal to us as well. Consistency is once that we are clear about our promise of value, we want to consistently demonstrate our brand's promise everywhere. So if you're at a social event, you're at a concert, you're at an interview, wherever it is, make sure that you are consistently exuding and giving off the brand that you want to be giving off. So when you're stuck in traffic and you want to scream and do all sorts of sign language to those around you, does that communicate the brand that you want to exude? Because I will tell you a story. I was road raging 100 years ago, road raging on my way to an interview. And it so happened that it was a person who worked at the company I was interviewing with that I was yelling at. So be consistent, be cognizant of where you are and the message that you are creating and sending off. And constancy. So it is not enough to be clear, to be consistent if we are not always visible to your target audience. So make sure that you are in the circles that you want to be in. Make sure that your target audience has the opportunity to see you and connect with you and to understand who you are and what you have to offer. You do not want to be lost in the noise, and you do not want to be forgotten. So make sure that you are always out there, whether it's with your LinkedIn profile, your social media profile, the support groups that you go to, the volunteer work that you go to, the corporate events that you go to, etc. Make sure that you are in front of the people who you can best serve. All right, so those are the 3 C's. And finally, we have to live our brand. It has to evolve, we have to maintain it, and we have to live it. And we want to make sure that we are always on brand, okay? So you don't want to distract from that. All right, I know that we are at time, and I blew through those last topics, but hopefully we are all on the same page and in a good spot. So I'll open it up for any questions, comments that we can help with.
Yeah, what were the last 2 things you said? You said live, and what else?
You want to be living your brand and make sure that everything that you're doing and that you're saying is on brand.
You said 3 things.
Oh, the 3 C's?
No, not after the 3 C's. The very final thing you said. I think you said obtain, maintain, maybe.
Oh, so once we develop and evolve our brand, then we need to maintain it. And we maintain it by living our brand. So develop, evolve, and maintain. And that maintenance of our brand is how we live our life, and making sure that how we live, what we say, what we do is all a reflection of our brand.
That was it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
And I love, Sarah, how you recommended the Post-it notes, right? Having something visible that says every day that reaffirms your brand. We get so caught up in the day-to-day. I got to do this, I got to do that. We get caught up in the minutia of the day-to-day. Having that overarching brand statement really helps us focus on the things that matter. One, helps us reaffirm who we are and why we're here, right? So it can be a motivator when we're like burned out and just tired of everything. And I think it also helps us get a little bit more comfortable with championing ourselves. You know, we talked a little bit earlier around like maybe a hesitancy to like get yourself out there. Having a statement that's very clear and very visible gets you comfortable with that, comfortable with owning your strengths. So I applaud that. That's my challenge to everyone over the holidays. Spend some downtime, think through, you know, that shape exercise and write those things down and put them in a visible spot. And I think, Sarah, you mentioned, you know, we're open this week for career sessions as well.
Yep.
If we want to talk about it more.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time, your contributions. And Amanda, I'll turn it back over to you.